Lefesu's party arrives at the martial arts city Lejar. Dina explains that the city was founded by one of the 7 heroes, and that it's been passed down to his descendants. The Heavenly Stars offers to destroy the entire city, but Lefesu quickly calls them off. The heroes' party steps out of Lefesu's RV, with them being joined by Sargis, the spider demi-human who had been working for Leon. He had decided to join the heroes' party after Say had saved his life. Lefesu tells Say that she's going to go sightseeing in the city, as she then offers Say a gift. It's a scarlet sword, and Lefesu gives it to Say to make up for Scorpius breaking his weapon. She then orders Libra to find the best inn in the city as she sets off. Say tells his party that they should go find an inn as well. Now take a wild guess what happens next. What do you know? The 2 parties end up at the exact same inn. Say decides to head out on his own to get some fresh air, as Lefesu decides to play cards with everyone else. That, and the presence of Lefesu's RV confirms to Say that Lefesu is aware of Earth. Say speculates if she had visited Earth while she was sealed, but he quickly dismisses that theory. Say suddenly notices a group of thugs cornering someone in a robe. He rushes in front of the person to protect them, as the thugs all charge at Say. Say thinks back to all the level 1000s that he had encountered, and notes that these thugs are nothing compared to them. He defeats all of them with ease, and he realizes that he had grown stronger. A mysterious man shows up and compliments Say's skill. He steps on one of the thugs' head and crushes it. Say asks him what he's doing to his own friends, and the man laughs at that remark. He says that the thugs are just tools, and that useless tools should just be thrown away. The man suddenly disappears into thin air and strikes Say. Say notices the man's shadow and manages to intercept the next attack. The man gets infuriated and launches another attack at Say. Say is knocked down as the man laughs, and he tells him that he has the power of the invincible hero. Someone in a robe tells the man to stop, addressing him as Debley. The person tells Debley that Say is the official hero recognized by the Levantine royal family. Debley decides to back off, and he tells Say that trying to be an ally of justice comes with a heavy price. Say asks the robed person he rescued if they're okay, and they reveal themselves to be Gantz's daughter Alfie. Now I'm sure all of you remember who Alfie is, but for those who don't, here's a quick flashback. He tells Say that he has prepared the very best equipment and people to take for his journey, and a mage Alfie, at level 72, and is the top graduate of Suval's Magic Academy. She turned out to also be Gantz's daughter, and she learned some swordsmanship from him.
End of flashback.
Say and Alfie head over to a tavern, and Alfie finds the situation extremely awkward as she had previously abandoned the hero's party out of fear. Say asks Alfie why she was being chased earlier, and she tells him that she had saw something she wasn't supposed to. Alfie asks Say if he's aware of the martial arts tournament being held in the city, and he answers that Cruz had informed him about it. Alfie tells Say that the winner of the tournament will become the hero of the territory, and they'll gain more influence over the royal family if they manage to defeat Lefesu or the Demon Lord, a situation that Say deduces will never happen. Alfie then adds that the Lords, the Speth family, wants their son Debley to become the hero. Debley would poison the food of his opponents just to win. It's non-lethal, but it'll prevent them from competing in the tournament. He'll also kidnap any women he likes that he has poisoned, which was what happened to one of Alfie's friends. Alfie had wanted to save her friend, but she was no match for Debley. She then leaves Say and offers to pay the check as thanks for saving her. Alfie had wanted to ask Say for his help, but she felt like she was unworthy to do so. Say, however, grabs her hand and tells her that he'll help. 10 minutes later, Say manages to gather some reinforcements consisting of Kainiko, Hawkeye, Virgo, and Sargis. Gantz also shows up, which freaks out Alfie. The scene shifts to the tournament, where Debley manages to win his match. He had poisoned his opponent and also bribed the referee to guarantee a victory for himself. He considers everyone else to be his toys, and he had ordered Alfie to supply him with new toys. However, Debley was hindered by Say, irritating him as no one is allowed to defy him. He decides to destroy everything that Say treasures, as he had sent some assassins to go after Say's friends. Debley plans to capture the women from his party and turn them into his new toys. We cut over to a bunch of assassins preparing to launch an attack on Lefesu at the inn. Inside the inn, Lefesu is presented with a bunch of food. Lefesu tries the soup and finds the taste to be terrible. She asks the owner of the inn if he had put sugar inside the soup instead of salt, and the owner quickly apologizes and offers to send it back. The owner then asks Lefesu if she's an adventurer and offers her a commission. Lefesu suddenly notices the assassins outside the inn and tells the owner to wait. She orders Libra to capture the assassins, as they all get brutally taken out. Libra brings over all the assassins and asks for Ego Caros's help with the interrogation. Lefesu then orders Sagittarius to find the background of the person who sent the assassins once Libra extracts their name. Lefesu looks furious, and she explains that she would have shown mercy if it was her when she had first arrived in the world. However, she had started to become more like the real Lefesu ever since the battle with Bennett Nash. She is no longer as kind as she was, as she then asks the owner about his commission. The scene shifts over to the tournament venue, where Say's group is inside the participant waiting room to search for proof of Debley's crimes. Hawkeye suddenly discovers a hidden switch on the wall, which reveals a secret staircase. The group runs into a couple of guards that Sargis takes out. The group arrives at a dungeon that reeks of blood. They open the door and are horrified at the sight of a bunch of women chained up and brutally scarred. Alfie calls out for her friend, Rael, and the girl slowly crawls towards her. Alfie notices the burns on her face and starts to tear up. A voice suddenly says that Rael burned her own face, as Debley steps out, saying that Rael had soured his mood. Hawkeye is furious and launches an attack at Debley, who proceeds to disappear into thin air. He then attacks Hawkeye and knocks him down. Debley then strikes Sargis. However, his blade failed to pierce his skin. Sargis notices that Debley's ability does not involve speed, and Debley reveals that he can actually stop time. Alfie finds that hard to believe, since only the goddess is capable of stopping time. Debley answers that this power of his was given from the goddess herself. The goddess had given the sword King Alioth a sacred treasure to defeat Lefesu, and he had entrusted the artifact to one of his companions. That artifact was then passed down to the companion's descendants, and is known as the Ring of Time. Debley finds joy in the group's hopeless expressions, as he then proceeds to stop time with his ring to strike down the entire group. Alfie tells Debley that the ring is what's impressive, not him. Debley becomes furious and attacks Alfie for mocking him. Gantz tries to protect his daughter, but Debley dodges his attack. He laughs and says that they'll never be able to hit him, as Virgo sneaks up behind him. Debley is caught off guard and barely manages to dodge her attack. Hawkeye is shocked that Virgo can see Debley's movement, but Gantz says that she's actually predicting Debley's movements ahead of time, which means that despite how strong the ring is, Debley himself isn't all that powerful. Debley's attendant suddenly holds Say hostage and orders Virgo to stop attacking. Virgo stops attacking, as Debley then strikes her down. He decides to teach her a lesson and launches a fury of attacks at Virgo while Say laments at how weak he is. He starts to think about the golden apple of Lefesu, wanting to gain more power so he could protect everyone. Debley then takes out a knife and tears apart Virgo's clothes. The ceiling suddenly caves in, as both Lefesu and Libra show up on the scene. Lefesu asks the group what they're doing here, and Say asks her the same question. Lefesu answers that she's here for a request from the owner of the inn, when she suddenly notices everyone's injuries. Her face turns stern, freaking everyone out except for Debley, who's confused. She asks Debley if he's the perpetrator, and Debley simply responds by asking Lefesu who she is. He says that even though her attitude is bad, her looks are quite charming, and that he'll make her his toy. Libra asks Lefesu if she can kill Debley, but Lefesu puts that on hold and once again asks Debley if he's behind everything. Debley confirms it, and Lefesu responds by calling him a small fry. Debley gets angry and stops time with his ring. He plans on ripping apart Lefesu's clothes and reaches his hand out towards her. Lefesu suddenly grabs his hand, catching Debley by surprise. Lefesu notices that his ring is what's making him so fast, revealing it to be the sacred treasure Chronos, which has the ability to slow down the entire world for a few seconds upon activation. The item is defective to Lefesu, as she then removes the ring from Debley's hand. Debley yells at her to give the ring back, and Lefesu responds by punching him in the face. Debley is sent flying, but Lefesu catches him by the neck. She tells him to not faint yet, as she's just getting started. Her face terrifies Debley, as he begins to scream about not wanting to be looked down on again like in the past. Time for another unnecessary backstory to justify the villain's actions. We learn that Debley was abandoned in front of a church when he was a baby. He was weak with no magic and was constantly being bullied. However, one day Debley found out that he was actually the son of a noble, and he jumped up and down in joy when he discovered the truth. However, once he entered the life of a nobleman, he was constantly being looked down on for formerly being an orphan. Debley would pretend to be strong so he wouldn't be looked down on, as he begins to tear up and starts to explain his motivations. Lefesu suddenly tears apart his backstory, saying that she doesn't care. Lefesu tells Debley that just because he has a pitiful past, it doesn't mean that his crimes will be forgiven. She then attacks him in every single one of his body parts, reducing him to a smear. And with that, the case has been resolved. The kidnapped victims had all of their scars healed and their memories of the incident erased. Lefesu had also forced Debley's subordinate to promise to make amends to all the victims, as all of the Speth family's crimes have been revealed to the public, causing their nobility status to be removed. Lefesu tells Rael to come back with her to the inn, and she leaves the rest to the hero's party. Say laments at how weak he is, as he didn't even stand a chance against a regular human. He thinks back to the golden apple of Lefesu that could help him reach level 1000. However, he finds that to be too easy, as power that can be obtained too easily can corrupt people. Lefesu takes Rael back to the inn, where she is reunited with the owner. She completes the request of saving the owner's kidnapped lover, and asks for only one thing as a reward. Lefesu wants to taste the cuisine of the inn, said to be the best of the entire city. Lefesu's whole party sits down to feast, and the food gave her memories of her time with the hero's party. Dina suddenly gets up and leaves, telling Lefesu that she's going to go pluck flowers. Lefesu is suspicious, but Castor suddenly gets up as he suddenly feels the presence of Pollux. The party heads outside the city to intercept Pollux. Castor tells Lefesu that Pollux had been tasked with guarding the wood Ouroboros' seal, and that she'd never leave the fairy kingdom. The 12 heavenly stars all feel an unnerving presence of something dangerous approaching. Lefesu explains that she had Virgo stay behind in the inn as she was too weak, while Dina still hasn't returned from plucking flowers. Lefesu then casts her divine barriers, the anti-magic barrier Heliosphere, and the physical attack blocking barrier Heliopause. Sagittarius then uses his skill Esquila in combination with Lefesu's skill, Enchant Ray. Esquila causes any single target skills to apply to all targets, while Enchant Ray increases the attack and defense of one single ally. The preparation for the upcoming battle is complete, as the entire group looks up at the dark and ominous sky.